Okay, so we're back again with more stream battles. Some really good ones today. And I start with the same team as before. If it's not broken, don't fix it, I guess, is my motto for at least this one. So I lead with Tapu because I see he's got a few Pokemon that could set up on me. Maybe Dragon Dance Flygon, Nasty Plot Salazzle, Swords Dance Mimikyu, and potentially Nasty Plot Togekiss. Maybe even Swords Dance Decidueye. So anyway, I lead with the Taunt, as I said. And that just makes sure that if he was going to stay with Togekiss, he couldn't use Nasty Plot or even Roost potentially, because that could be annoying in the long run. So he switched out to his Decidueye. I switched into the Bewear because I don't want to take a Leaf Blade on my Tapu because that's going to do a lot of super effective damage. Fluffy reduces the damage, so it doesn't do too much to me. I used Ice Punch because it's super effective if he stayed in, and if he was going to switch to Togekiss, which he did, then it's going to do super effective damage as well. So that was a good play on my part. I don't really want to stick around to take an Air Slash because that's going to do a lot of damage to my Bewear, even if I do have Assault Vest. So it's probably better to play it safe. I switch back out to Tapu Fini, and I just continue to try and keep up the pressure. I see he went for an attack as opposed to a setup, so I think, okay, I'll just go for the Moonblast, potentially knock him out, but he switches back and we're playing the little switch game. But yeah, my Moonblast does the damage it does, and it's actually a pretty decent amount. So I know we're playing this little switch game, so I think, okay, actually, I'm going to stick around. I'm going to use another Moonblast. And the other reason as well was because I also don't like to lose momentum too much with this team by switching too much. But it was a good prediction anyway, and staying in worked out because he used Brave Bird, obviously expecting me to go back into the Bewear. So that was obviously the thought process on his part, and I got rewarded for it. So I've got nothing to worry about here. Obviously I can just stay in. He obviously withdraws because he doesn't want to lose his Decidueye just yet. I have nothing to worry about, so I just go for the Moonblast again. But it's a good switch by him because I don't actually have any other moves, offensive moves that is, except Moonblast, and he's 4 times resistant to it. Anyway, very unfortunate for this guy. We got a lot of special attack drops going on from Tapu Fini this game, but I'm not sticking around to find out how much that Sludge Bomb is going to do to me. So I swap back out to my Marowak because he can resist both the fire moves, potentially Hidden Power Ice, and he can resist Sludge Bomb. So that puts me in a position of momentum. So I'm 1 move ahead of him now. You know, I've got a free turn to do something with. So I decided the safest thing to do is to go for the Shadow Bone because that's neutral against all of his Pokemon. And you can see if I did go for the Flare Blitz, this Flygon would have resisted it. So Shadow Bone for neutral damage, and quite surprisingly, it was a one-hit KO. I was really impressed. I mean, I know Marowak does a lot of damage, but I didn't know he'd one-hit KO a Flygon, so that was pretty impressive. As usual with Mimikyus, I always know they use Swords Dance first, so I always stay in. And it hasn't let me down so far. I always use Boomerang, as I say, get rid of the Disguise, get rid of the Focus Sash if there is one. So his Disguise is gone, and any Focus Sash potentially right now, so that puts me in a good position to switch out and get the kill. Because I can't really stick around with Marowak to take a Shadow Claw, that's definitely going to kill me. So Pyukumuku, the best check against Mimikyu in the game right now, honestly. Unaware, he's not going to take any damage. Even if it was Life Orbed, still wouldn't take hardly any damage at all. So he isn't completely sure, I guess, whether I'm unaware or not. He does another Swords Dance. Gives me a free turn to get off my Z Purify. And then this basically just puts me in the position where I can just finish off the game nice and easily. This next thing, if he was going to do any damage, well, his next move wasn't going to do any damage anyway. So again, a free Baton Pass out into Tapu Fini. Even if he does have Shadow Sneak, he can't revenge kill me because Tapu Lele is immune to priority. So that's why this is a really good switch. Tapu Lele is probably one of the best people to receive a Z Purify. So just go for the Shadow Ball. And it's pretty much just a straight sweep from here, not too much to say. And yeah, that was the game. So some pretty interesting switches to begin with. You know, there's a little bit of Togekiss and Decidueye sort of shuffling around, trying to get momentum. I think what did the battle for me was the switching to Marowak. That really helped me get some momentum going. And especially once I got the Boomerang off, that really just set into pace the end of the game, really. And I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to one-hit KO this Primarina. It potentially could have been Assault Vest, so not 100% sure, but might be able to survive +1 Tapu Lele, although Tapu Lele is very strong at +1. And then just the remaining Decidueye, obviously just got a tiny bit of health, just Shadow Ball, finish off the match. And then that's it. Into the next match. So anyway, here on to the next battle. And I kind of get off to I guess technically a bad lead versus his, because, you know, Intimidate is quite detrimental. I stay in anyway. I use Earthquake because it's the most safe move against most of his team. I use Earthquake again anyway. Obviously, he was looking for an opportunity to get the weakness policy off, so that was pretty good, you know. I mean, you know, weakening my Bewear and then switching into a super effective move to make sure the weakness policy gets activated. But the only problem is, you know, is that unfortunately the Earthquake still does a lot of damage, and it's gonna do even more damage now that he's in his stance change. So in his blade form. And I knew Bewear could survive. Like, Fluffy is so good, honestly. So just stay in, nothing to worry about, and just get rid of the Aegis Slash, no problem. And he goes back into Stoutland, lowers my attack again. So, you know, I'm thinking, okay, I'm not really gonna be able to do anything at -2 against, you know, a Stoutland. So I just go for the Tapu Fini. I don't know what this guy's got. You know, Tapu Fini's always a decent sort of I don't know, sort of scout. I mean, obviously it's a wall breaker, but if you just want to be safe, you know, whoever they switch into, as long as you've got a taunt up or anything like that, then, you know, you can play pretty safe with Tapu Fini. So that's what I do. I go for the taunt just in case. I don't know what he has. I don't know if he was going to switch. I don't know, but I find out now that he is Protect and Last Resort set, which is very interesting, because it's sort of similar to the Ambipom set of Fake Out and then Last Resort, you know, very similar. But now I know that, you know, and I've got a Ghost type Pokemon. That means I am free to do whatever I want this, you know, this current turn. Like, it, you know, I have got a Ghost type and he only has a normal type move. So that is the only downfall, obviously, of that set. So I switch into my Mimikyu. That means, you know, I've got a bit of battle momentum built up now. So, you know, I'm one turn ahead. So obviously I can't do much versus his Incineroar, but that's fine because this Mimikyu is designed, if you see my other videos, he's designed Trick Room. So the basic idea is that he's gonna create a safe entry for my Alolan Marowak. So I just stay in, I just keep using Shadow Claw. It doesn't really matter. Basically, as long as I time it correctly, you know, my Trick Room and then Destiny Bond, it doesn't really matter what happens beforehand. So, surprisingly, even though I'm 0 IVs in everything except attack, I still survive an Earthquake. You know, so that's pretty interesting. So as I said, you know, Trick Room, Destiny Bond, and creating a safe entry for my Marowak. So obviously this Incineroar is going to go down, and then I got a free entry to send in my Marowak to do a Trick Room sweep. As expected, the Incineroar goes down. In comes the Marowak. So he sends out Mimikyu. And as I said last match, and in my other videos, I always Boomerang. I just know people want a Swords Dance, always, really. So that's what happens. He Swords Dance. And this is where I haven't actually had an opportunity to use Bewear like this before. So this was really exciting for me, you know, like I've got Trick Room up and I'm expecting a Shadow Sneak, so I swap in because I know I'm going to be immune to it. So, and it was, you know, that is what happened. It was a good prediction, and Bewear is slow. Definitely a lot slower than standard Mimikyu. So he's definitely going to attack first in Trick Room. I was a little bit disappointed that I wasn't able to kill him, but it worked out anyway. You know, I mean, I got a bit of damage down, and the Trick Room disappeared, which is fine. So I mean, I could have sent in a faster Pokemon, but I decided, okay, I'll just do my standard, you know, check against Mimikyu. But he had Wood Hammer, which is very interesting, and it did a lot of damage. But Pyukumuku is a god, a god among all Pokemon. So he survives it, and I managed to get off my, you know, Z Purify. So obviously that means I'm looking to get in my Tapu Lele next. And I was a little bit worried about this. I know that Drampas carry Thunderbolt sometimes, which his did, and I was also very surprised to survive. But I did have +1 special defense, and I am specially defensive built, so I thought, okay, you know, I can take the risk, and it paid off. That's what we do. You take risks. Sometimes they are rewarded, and sometimes they aren't. And then yeah, it's just I did say the normal Tapu Lele sweep from here, except this guy was pretty good because he was outplaying, you know, he's trying to outplay my moves. So I I used Moonblast because obviously it's super effective, and he sent out Marowak to resist it. So, you know, obviously good play, but I'm +1 everything, and it's a bit of a, yeah, it's a bit of a no-brainer for me. I just, you know, press whatever move I want really, and it doesn't really matter if it's resisted. So yeah, this is basically where the sweep just continues. Protect. I mean, he's not going to outspeed me, but I don't know. Yeah, just Psychic, finish off the Stoutland. I was noticed towards the end of the match when Tapu Lele's out, you know, it starts getting a bit quiet, so I don't really have much to say. It's just, you know, watch the destruction really. And obviously Moonblast just to finish off the Drampa. And that's that game. Some very good plays. Okay, and on to the last battle. And I send out my Bewear against his team first, because it seems like the most sort of flexible choice, because he's got Assault Vest and Fluffy, so he takes less damage from both sides, so it's pretty safe lead. I go in for the return, which he predicts, and very well, is Marowak is immune to it. So I stay in, because I was thinking, okay, Fluffy makes me weak to fire, but also makes me, you know, it also reduces the damage as well, so it's basically neutral. So I was thinking, yeah, I could survive, you know, probably most things you could throw at me. And I go for the Earthquake, which damages him pretty well. And I know I definitely can't survive, you know, a Flare Blitz after surviving a Flame Charge. So switch out to Tapu to resist the hit, and he dies on the recoil. That's a lot of damage for a resisted hit. Look at that, half my health. My goodness. So he sends out his Arcanine, and I would just go for the taunt. Just, I don't know, you know, it's just a safe play. I was expecting the Wild Charge anyway, but as with this team, I tend not to switch out a lot, because it's generally better to sort of let someone die and then someone else come in with full health. Because if I switched out to Mimikyu like I did now, you know, I'd have got rid of the disguise. It just sort of messes me up if I switch out. So I go for the Shadow Claw, because, you know, obviously it's super effective. Why not? He's got weakness policy. Obviously that's what he wanted. He wanted to get it activated through a super effective hit, so good play. My attack has now fallen quite a bit, so there's no point in me staying in. He's at half health. He's also got boosted attacks, so what better choice than to switch to my Pyukumuku, who's just going to avoid all of his boosts, because he's unaware. And yeah, that's it. Just the standard Pyukumuku play. This Shadow Ball did a lot of damage though. I was not 100% sure if I was going to survive the next Shadow Ball, because that was quite a lot. I'm not sure if you got a low roll first and then a high roll, but it did a lot more than the first one. Anyway, I was hedging my bets, as I always do with Pyukumuku, and I, you know, tried it and it worked, which is good. So even if he did have Shadow Sneak, it doesn't matter, because, you know, Tapu Lele's immune to all priority in the terrain. So he uses the King's Shield, which makes sense, because he's trying to get rid of my psychic terrain. He's trying to stall it out as much as he can, because obviously it's not very good to switch into Tapu Lele, as you've probably seen in this video and other videos. It doesn't matter if you resist the hit, because there's just too much damage going on. So he used a Protect, which was to stall me out, I suppose. And yeah, now the sweep begins, and this is where you can see that he's continuing to try and sort of stall out my psychic terrain, because he really he wants to get the revenge kill with that Arcanine. So I use the Shadow Ball. Drampa is immune to it, and that wastes my psychic terrain. So he then predicts the Moonblast, which is, you know, very good again. Arcanine resists Moonblast, and can survive it. And also his Arcanine's got extreme speed, and he's choice banded. So, you know, very good plays, working around my Tapu Lele's move pool, you know, resisting the moves. But unfortunately, as good as his plays were, Tapu Lele is just too strong. She's got +1 defense now, so surviving that choice band extreme speed, no problem at all. And honestly, those plays were really commendable. This is what I say, you know, it doesn't matter 5-0, 6-0, you know, 4-0. If your plays are good, and if you can see that there's a good effort in there, honestly, that's all that counts really at the end of the day. That's what I judge people by, in a good way. So yeah, this is the Tapu Lele just finishing off now. But yeah, really good plays, trying to work around the move pool, you know, using the immunities and the resistances to my the expected attacks by me. And so those were the battles, not all the battles, but the best ones of the stream. And I'll be sure to upload more battles as I do more streams. See you again.